Coming up on today's episode of the Moneypants Superpower Hour. Today, we're talking about how to discover your kids' superpowers. Moneypants is all about developing superpowers, but what are those superpowers? We'll talk about 9 keys to helping every family member discover what their superpowers are and what things will get in the way of that objective. How parents are like coaches and have the responsibility to discover the talents and abilities of their team members. Why you shouldn't be afraid to be wrong and try different things. Be sure to listen to the end, where we'll show that superpowers may not be exactly what you think. And you may be surprised to discover you have more superpowers than you realize. All this and more, but first, the joke of the day.
My friend asked me if I could have any superpower I wanted, what would it be? Apparently Russia isn't what he was looking for. Hello everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Moneypants Superpower Hour. We're your hosts, Hannah and Fontaine Judd, and we're the proud parents of 7 sons and 6 daughters ranging in age from college student to toddler. We're both BYU graduates and the creators of Moneypants. Head on over to CaptainMoneyPants.com to learn more about what we do and what we're all about. We believe every person on this planet has been given at least one superpower to help them accomplish their unique mission in life. But the only way to unlock those superpowers is through work ethic. That's when greatness happens. And that's where Moneypants comes in. Moneypants is the complete tool set for cultivating work ethic in all aspects of a person's life. And today's topic is how to help your family members discover their superpowers, but more specifically, how parents can help their children discover their superpowers. And this I think is one of the coolest things about being a parent, is that when you have these kids, and I think every parent recognizes that their kids have incredible potential, but in what direction? Where does that potential go? Where does it lead? And what is their unique mission in life? And you get, as a parent, you get to watch that and see that and also kind of coach that.
It's exciting, yeah.
And see, we've had this experience with a couple of our children where we're like, I don't really know what their superpowers are. And then one day, boom, all of a sudden, oh, wow, they're an amazing artist. I had no idea. They just surprised me one day.
Yeah, well, back when you worked in Hollywood, you noticed a phenomenon where there were a lot of naturally talented people who would come out to Hollywood and people who weren't talented, who just wanted the glamour or the spotlight.
Right.
They'd come out to Hollywood and they'd be like, here I am, everybody. I'm here. You can cast me to star in your next movie, or I can also direct it, and I can, I'm here. And do I have any takers? Mm-hmm. And it was very common for people to come out there with that attitude of, hey, I'm talented. But when it came down to it, the people who actually worked in Hollywood, they had gone to school, which a lot of people would just move out there without even going to school, without having applied themselves in any way. But then also they tended to be flaky. They wouldn't show up to work.
That was a big frustration. Is there were people out there who were way more talented than I was.
Yeah. But
they wouldn't show up. They would be given they were truly talented. They'd be given these great opportunities, and then they would, like you said, they would flake. They wouldn't show up. And it's like, what are you doing? What? And it was interesting to watch, because, and that was my realization, was that successful people in Hollywood, the ratio, the formula was roughly 10% talent and about 90% just showing up.
Yeah.
Because the sheer volume of people who wouldn't even show up, wouldn't even bother to show up.
Yeah, because they had in their mind, I'm talented, and therefore that kind of trumps the need to show up and actually put in time.
Well, and that's what
apply themselves.
But that's what work ethic is doing the hard things even when it's hard.
Yeah.
And they didn't have that. And we've talked about that in the past, where, work ethic and the importance of it.
But and so the whole thing of Moneypants is, hey, you're going to have this work ethic to support your talents. But then today what we're talking about is discovering discovering what those talents
what am I
are
gonna use
that you should be working on.
What am I going to use my work ethic to develop?
And so this is actually a tricky question because, a baby's born into your family and you're like, who is this person?
Right.
Who are they? They're not the same as you. They're not the same as your spouse. Mm-hmm. They're a unique individual, and it's getting to know them and getting to figure it out what their superpowers are. It's actually a kind of an exciting process and a very fun process. Mm-hmm. And then once you figure it out, then, figuring out how to help them develop what their talents are. It makes being a parent very fun, very satisfying when you're not trying to put your talents, what you wanted onto them, but actually trying to figure out what.
Not only that, though, it's interesting to me because we've had this experience multiple times now where we had no idea what a certain child's skill was, and we're just looking at them going, I don't know. And then one day, out of the blue, all of a sudden, boom, just like that. Oh, look, they're an amazing artist. Or all of a sudden, one day, boom, wow, they're a really good writer. And we had no idea. There were no ways of telling ahead of time. It was just all of a sudden.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed until they did it. And I'm like, oh wow, this is different.
All of a sudden. So we want to talk about
typical.
some of the keys to helping make sure helping you discover and your children's superpowers. And one of the first easiest ones is to give them more access to opportunities and tools and less access to toys and entertainment. Because as we've talked about in the past, entertainment, especially like video games and TV, is kryptonite for developing those superpowers. But also it's kryptonite for even discovering the superpowers. If your kids never get off the couch or never have any other opportunity to do anything, how would they know, and how would you ever know what their superpowers are?
Recently, I was on a Facebook group for moms, and so there was this mom, and she's like, she was feeling guilty because she wanted to limit the time that her kids were playing on computer games. Mm-hmm. But her son was putting her on this big guilt trip that was his talent. And she was interfering with his talents and abilities by telling him, he could only play for an hour a day or 2 hours a day. He wanted to play all afternoon. That's what he wanted to do. I replied to the mom, I'm like, okay, so if he told you watching movies was his hobby, would you just let him watch movies all afternoon? But I've seen that where some kids will be like, oh, I'm going to become a professional gamer, mom and dad. That's my talent. And I'm like, oh, okay.
You know what though? Here's the thing. And I'm not gonna say one way or another, but I will say this. The vast majority of kids, that is not their calling or mission in life.
Everybody enjoys playing video games.
But that's not their calling or mission in life.
My mission in life to contribute to the good of society
by playing video games.
Is to play video games.
I'm not buying that. I don't think so.
Yeah. When we talk about superpowers, we're talking about how you can uniquely contribute to the world and make the world a better place.
Right.
And so we're not talking about, your ability to watch movies or your ability
to watch movies. Yeah. You have to have eyes
to
and a
play
pulse.
video games and or surf the internet,
So, and Hannah, you've done something I think very clever. And I think we should...
Well, let's back up a little bit. Kind of your role as a parent is a coach.
Right. Parents
are coaches. And this is think of your kids and your family as kind of your team. And one of the jobs of a coach when, they get all the kids coming out for the team is they have to figure out what people's talents are and put them in the proper positions on the team. And some coaches are better at that than others. Mm-hmm. And like when you coached football's kind of unique because there are so many kids on the team.
Right.
It's all these kids on the team. You don't know any of them. And maybe you've watched footage from them in the past. Maybe they're brand new, but you get all these kids out onto the team. What did you observe about the coaches And how did they figure out where to put people on the team?
So, I was a new coach. I didn't know all this stuff, so I got to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But the veteran coaches, they were really good. We had like 30, 40 kids on the team. And yeah, you're right. They knew a couple of the boys from previous years maybe, but when you're coaching the 10 to 12-year-olds, like how much they're growing and developing so rapidly, and there's so much change, and they're new kids, and it's just there's so much going on. So these coaches they had some really cool just like drills that they would do and put all the boys, and they do have them all run the 40-yard dash and see how fast who the fastest kids were. Then they do these agility drills, or how fast they could run around the little square with the cones and blah blah blah. Or they'd throw the ball to the kids and see who could catch them the best and have the best hands, and or who could throw the ball, or who could kick the ball. And they did all these different, just I guess basically it's like superhero tests to see who had the best powers in these different areas, so they could fill the roster and put everybody in the right place. And that, to me, that is the best type of coach, is the one who can assess kind of the hand he's been given. The best coaches are the ones that go, okay, these are the unique talents that my players have, and I need to, okay, he's best on defense. He's the fastest runner. Oh, but he's the best at catching.
Yeah, and some coaches, remember Coach Moore?
Coach Moore
how
was.
He wouldn't write people off because they didn't have like the skills already in their pocket. He had a talent for that.
That was one of his talents. One of his superpowers was coaching.
He could figure out what people's...
And he was really fast at it.
Yeah.
Like he was able to determine where, and maybe this just applies to football, but maybe it applies to other parts of life, but he was really good at it when it comes to football, where he could spend just a couple of days with the boys and go, okay, I have a pretty good idea of who my players are and what their talents are, and where I can best use them. And that was the thing, where to best use them to make the team better.
Yeah.
Now, that was the interesting thing, is because sometimes I noticed is that even though one player may have talents in catching, running, and throwing, the coach would be like, you know what, I'm going to leave you as the runner because I have another guy who's only good at catching. He's not good at throwing or running.
Yeah.
So the coach would put all these these puzzle pieces together to make it the most cohesive for the betterment of the entire team.
Well, and then sometimes you'd learn about their weaknesses and strengths as they were put in those positions. For example, some kids, if the game was going well, they were on fire, but the second, the other team scored or they were down,
they put their head down,
they'd check out, and that was the end. And the coach had to know, okay, we got to take them out. This isn't their forte. They really had to get to know what the abilities were, and of course work on their weaknesses or whatever, try to overcome some of that. But as a parent, your job is kind of is similar. And starting out,
absolutely,
you need to do the drills,
right?
Drills to try to figure out, okay, are you good at catching? Are you good at? Do you have agility? Are you super strong?
Right?
What do we have going on here? I want to get to know you.
And so the first key to do that is to give your kids more opportunities to do things and see things and participate in things that otherwise they wouldn't have the opportunity to. And the way to do that is to turn off the video games, turn off the TV.
Yeah.
That's
so
step number one.
There have been times when I started relying more on the TV, where I'm like, oh yeah, we'll watch this and we'll watch that, and it started just to become this. Oh, are we going to watch something, Mom? Are we going to watch something?
Right.
And I noticed that if I turned the TV on too often, that was just the whole focus of my kids was, what are we going to watch today? And they weren't thinking of doing anything else.
Right.
Oh, I have to get these things done, but then I'm going to watch TV. Well, I remember when we lived in LA, that one time the kids got in trouble because they were turning the TV on and watching movies when they didn't have permission to. And they knew they weren't supposed to. And you said, you know what, guys? Fine, that's it. And you went in the living room and you turned around the TV. It was a heavy TV. You turned it around. You're like, we're not watching TV. And I remember feeling disappointed myself because I was actually kind of getting hooked on watching movies and TV all the time. I'm like, oh, what are we going to do? And for like a week, maybe 2 weeks after, the kids just wandered around aimlessly. They didn't know what to do. They kept looking at the TV, wandering around, and then they look at the TV and,
Well, so that's something you can expect is after you do step number 1, which is to turn off the TV and the video games, expect your kids will go through withdrawal. You're 100%
Yeah,
right.
it was definitely a withdrawal where they couldn't think of anything else to do besides watch TV or, I'm sure the same thing would happen with video games.
If they're used to constant entertainment, when you unplug the TV, they will go through withdrawal for, like you said, a couple of weeks. And it reminds me of that Simpsons episode from a long time ago where the town's favorite cartoon or something was like turned off or the internet shut down or something like that. And all the kids wandered outside and they're all bleary-eyed and they're rubbing their eyes. They don't know what to do. And then but then here's the cool thing is then all of a sudden they're like, wait, there are things to do. And all of a sudden it's like this renaissance with all the kids. They're playing baseball and they're drawing pictures. They're building forts and playing on the merry-go-round and coming up with games and playing cops and robbers and pirates. And it was
things
funny
that you don't see kids doing nowadays.
So, and that's just it, is when, so when you turn off the TV, expect, there's going to be some pushback, guaranteed.
There's going to be the bleary-eyed.
But also, but once that 2-week period is over, and that's the second key, once that 2-week period is over, watch and see what your kids do when they have free time and they don't have access to entertainment and games. What do they do? What do they spend their time doing? And that will give you major keys, major insights into what their superpowers are. Mm-hmm. Where if you find them, they're like, oh, and they get into sewing. You're like, interesting. Never thought. Or if they suddenly start drawing, or they start building stuff, or they start writing, or they start reading, or they start, there's so many different things that they could get into where.
And they do. That's just it. Is that was the trick. When the COVID lockdown started, we turned off the TV and we said, hey, we're only watching on the weekends and, only if this and this and this happen. And at first the kids were like, what do we do? What do we do? Because they didn't have sports going on. They didn't have all these like structured activities. And it took a while. But they finally started coming up with all these things to do. They really got into readings. And some of them had never enjoyed reading books before. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden they realized they loved reading books. And then others of them started building all these forts and
but the
developing all sorts of like talents, like with Falcon, learned how to
his construction of creating things.
Yeah, like he started like creating all these like fun bikes and stuff for the kids, like taking apart old broken bikes and vehicles and stuff and putting them together and making new ones. And
remember the cities and the forts and the houses and he was so creative with the wood pile that we had because we just had scrap wood.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like I said, it was like the Simpsons. It was like a renaissance. Wait, we can create?
Where you're like, that's actually really good.
Well, total sidebar, but in Hollywood, people would always ask me, what's my favorite show? And I'm like, I don't watch TV. And they're like, well, what do you do? I'm like, dude, I'm a producer, not a consumer. And I think that we need to kind of get back to that where I think we've kind of become like a consumer society, and we need to get back to producing. Yeah. Because we have so much to offer.
But you have to balance the two out. If you're constantly consuming, you can't be producing at the same time.
Right. And I simply did not have time to be consuming all this media. So that was the kind of the second step, is to watch your kids and see what they do once they get past that withdrawal of not being entertained. Number 3, though.
Well, along those lines, though, I recently, because I do the home study with my kids through a charter school, and so I see moms saying, "Oh, what style of schooling do you do?" And a lot of moms are kind of saying, "Oh, I do unschooling," or something along those lines. And honestly, I was turned off by that idea, because I've seen people take it to extremes where they don't teach their kids to read. They don't.
Right.
And I'm like, that doesn't seem right to me. But I read this one mom's explanation of it, and I was like, oh, well, I halfway do that. Because in the morning, I make sure that they are taught their math, their history, their science, and their writing and grammar. And we get it done pretty quickly. By lunchtime, we're done.
Okay, so you're saying that every kid should have like these core, like they're basics. Like all kids should learn that.
You got to learn basic math. You have to, because you got to manage. Otherwise, people will take advantage of you in life.
You need to know how to read. You need to know how to write. You need to know your basic math.
And you need to be able to communicate, with your writing.
And science. You should have a fundamental understanding of science, history, math, reading, writing. So you're right. Now, does that mean that all of our kids are going to become engineers? Nope.
No.
And that's part of the problem with the current school system, too, is that they want the kids to go all these advanced math concepts. And it's like, why?
Why would you? No, I can see for some kids, that's the path.
But really, for the average Joe, algebra 2, that's more than enough. And that's just it. I don't use calculus anymore. I went through AP calculus and did well in the testing, but that would have been great if I was going to become an engineer. But I have no desire to become an engineer. I had no intention of becoming an engineer, yet I still use algebra today. So I feel like there's like you said, Hannah, that you teach the kids, kind of give them this core.
Yeah.
But once that you're past
I want them to be really good at reading.
Where do you focus?
I want them to be really good at reading. I want them to know everything about science and the world around them. And I focus on that, but I do it very efficiently. I get it done in the morning. And then I'm like, okay, we're done with school. Okay, now you can go do, you have free time now. And so I realized, that's when my kids go and do baking and sewing, and they go off and they're like, oh, I'm going to create some music on GarageBand, or I'm going to create something on Maya and print it out, or I'm going to learn about how, photography, or I'm going to practice this instrument. I'm going to go, they'll go work in the garden, and they're doing it on their own free will, or they're reading books and doing all these things that they're actually educational. But I don't call it school. But they're actually learning all day, but they're enjoying it, and I'm not calling it school.
They're developing and discovering their superpowers.
Yeah,
and
it's very much...
But it's insightful to you and me, Hannah, because we're like, oh, wait, that's interesting. I didn't know that about that child, that interests them, and they have a penchant for that, and they develop that, and you're like, oh, maybe that's one of their superpowers.
Well, that was... by not calling it school... They're having
it's
fun
learning.
It's
a sneaky way to trick
you're
them
done. You can
into
do it.
developing their superpowers.
Yeah,
sure.
but we don't turn on the TV.
Well,
we don't turn on the internet.
So first step, turn off the TV and the entertainment.
Yeah.
But the second step is to watch what your kids do once they have that free time. Mm-hmm. See where they go. Well, that's only going to get you part way.
Yeah.
And that leads to the key number 3, which is try different things. Give your kids exposure to all the different disciplines, because watching documentaries, going places, camping, national monuments, museums, landmarks, countries, government buildings. I mean, one of my favorite, I read a biography of Steven Spielberg years ago, where his mom, if I'm not mistaken, his mom would take him out of school every Wednesday and take him to museums and go and just explore. And it served a lot of different purposes, but it really opened his mind to the world outside of school. And I'm reminded of, I think, the Mark Twain quote where it said, don't let school get in the way of your education. That idea where his mom understood, obviously you couldn't do that today, but his mom was able to pull his
you'd
kid
have
out.
to do charter school or something that's more flexible.
But she really opened his mind to just a different perspective on things. And it also engendered, that relationship between him and his mom. But I'm thinking that how much, we all enjoyed, the movies that he makes because, he added to the canon of entertainment that we have.
Yeah.
Because, though, he had different perspectives and it got a much better education and was exposed to different ideas and thoughts and stuff by going to all these different museums and places with his mom.
Wow, every Wednesday.
I think so.
They must have done a lot.
It was something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I remember you telling me that.
But because of that, he got all these different ideas. And then, of course, when he finally kind of realized what his talents were, which were filmmaking, he was able to use all that and to make his filmmaking better. But other things you can do to try to expose your children.
I have a younger brother that's like that. He's always taking his kids to like try different things and go to different places.
And didn't he discover that one of his kids really good at fishing?
Yeah. I think they're all good at fishing. They go catch their dinner once a week.
Which is crazy to me because the thing is though, and I feel like I did as a kid, I got a lot of different experiences. I did go fishing. I did go ride motorcycles. I did climb mountains. I did all these different things. And that's actually one of the things. Oh, you had
really good scout leaders.
Well, that was one of the neat things about the Boy Scouts was that the idea was to this very concept of introduce the Scouts to all these different
because they have them do like robotics. They have them do all
dentistry. Swimming.
Yeah, they understood
hiking,
the concept
cooking,
of
government, personal finance. Like they had all these different things you could kind of try out, so I did. I felt like I got introduced to a lot of different disciplines, and it helped me kind of.
That's why the scouting program.
Oh, I loved it.
Like it was, but that is intelligent.
It is brilliant. That one aspect alone. There are a lot of aspects of the scouting program I really like, but that one in particular, I'm like, that's brilliant. So, that's the idea. So this is key number 3 is to try different things.
They had the boys try different leadership positions.
Oh, right.
You were required to, and because if you've never had that opportunity, you don't know.
Yep, you don't know.
And so,
maybe you are a great leader, or maybe you're not. Either way,
you're like I'm entirely uncomfortable.
Turns out that's my superpower, or turns out that's not my superpower. Isn't that great to know?
Yeah.
Know thyself. Anyway, so that's key number 3. Here are some other ideas like. Go to music performances or dance performances. I remember...
for outings,
absolutely.
If you're taking your kids on outings, going to the museum, we're going to go watch the such and such orchestra. We're going to go... remember how we took Royal to a football game and he was mesmerized by the band. Mm-hmm. And he wants to play the tuba or something.
Or the trumpet. No, back up.
And he was just like, I want to do that.
I had the exact same experience in 3rd grade. Maybe every little boy goes through this, I don't know, but they had the different band people come into my 3rd grade class and demonstrate their instruments. And they had the piccolo, and they had the flute, and they had the saxophone, and and of course they had the tuba player comes in, and there was this big kid, he's like an 8th grader, carrying this big old sousaphone wrapped around him, and because I think it's the only instrument that you wear. But he comes in there and he belts out the boom, 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 boom. And my eyes lit up. I was like, oh, that's the coolest thing ever. I want to do that. And of course I was maybe 50 pounds. And the teacher's like, well, maybe we could try you on the baritone or the euphonium. I'm like, okay, let's do that. Uh-huh. And sure enough, I loved it. I loved it. But if I had never been introduced to that, I would have no idea. Now I play, it morphed into, by the time I was in high school, I was playing the trumpet and I was in the jazz band, and then I ended up being in the marching band, nerd, at BYU. And then it kind of dropped off and I didn't do it for a long time. But had I never been introduced to that in the first place, I would have never known that I enjoyed it.
Yeah, if that tuba player hadn't come in and boom, boom.
And it's not that I had any intention of, and we'll talk about this in a minute, I didn't have any intention or even proclivity to becoming a concert trumpet player or a virtuoso soloist, but it was one of my superpowers.
Yeah, but how many times has your knowledge of music helped you in your career?
Oh yeah, well
you have to cut in music to all the shows that you've ever worked on. You have to cut to the beat. You have to.
You know what's odd though?
It actually was part of
I found that the thing is
your future.
It's true, and I found though interestingly, the best editors are the ones that enjoy and oftentimes play jazz.
Really?
It's the weirdest
thing. So
where,
something about the connection and the...
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but the best editors were also musicians, oddly. So because of their pacing, and I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. But I noticed that over the years of editing. I'm like, wow,
the most talented editors all had some musical talent.
But I'm just thinking, so that's key number 3 is to try different things. And like when we put Caleb in basketball.
Oh yeah, we discovered what his superpower is. He was 5 or 6. We put him in basketball, and we were like, wow, he's a football player.
He's not a basketball player.
He's tackled everybody on the team. So, and he wasn't trying to. And so we're like, yeah, wrong. We were just watching him, and it was actually kind of embarrassing. But we were watching him, and we're like,
he's totally a football player.
He's a football player.
Totally.
And none of my brothers, well, I had one brother play football one year in high school. And then,
I never played football.
Yeah, your family doesn't do football. My family really didn't do football. And so, but we looked at our son and went, he's football.
Totally.
And sure enough, we put him in football. And
he
was
in
heaven.
But not only that, he developed his skills, and he was really good.
Oh, yeah.
Like, really good. Led the team in tackles. And
yeah, he loved tackling.
That was his favorite thing.
We knew that.
Year after year, he led the team in tackles.
Yeah, I loved it when he would when he'd spot the person with the ball, and he'd run after them, and he'd be watching them and timing out the run, and then he'd launch himself into the air like Superman and his
Superman tackles.
Yeah, his Superman tackles were
fun to watch.
Yeah, I would just go to his game in hopes of seeing the Superman tackle. So that was a lot of fun, but it started with basketball.
So do something, even if it's wrong.
Yeah.
And you'll discover, like, putting our son in basketball turned out to be the wrong thing, but it was the right thing because it led to.
Yeah, it made us realize that you know what, we can. It helped us point us in the right direction.
So that's key number 3. Key number 4 is kind of related, and that is, instead of buying toys and entertainment and clothing and jewelry.
For birthdays and Christmas.
Buy your kids tools.
Yeah.
And so the toys, the entertainment, the clothes, and the jewelry, let them earn those things themselves. Yeah. Your kids can earn their own clothes and jewelry and stuff like that.
Yeah, give them something to work for.
Give them, but for birthdays and for Christmas, give them tools. And this is why. There was a kid I knew who was kind of getting in trouble. And he knew he was going down the wrong path, and for Christmas somebody bought him an airbrush kit. Mm-hmm. And he had no interest in airbrushing. He was just getting in trouble. And he's like, but whatever. He was bored one day and he picked it up. Not only did he really enjoy it, but he discovered he was really good at it. And those are two different things, by the way. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about that in a future podcast, whether being good at something versus enjoying something. Superpowers aren't necessarily the same thing as what you enjoy. But he turned out, though, he really enjoyed it and was really good at it. And he got to the point where he was charging $10,000 for paintings. And people would commission him to do these works of art. And he was in his early 20s by that point. And it totally changed his life around simply because someone had bought him a tool that previously he didn't have access to, didn't know. And he discovered really quickly, oh, that's one of my superpowers. Mm-hmm. Imagine that, which is really cool.
Well, another example of that is, so we try to fill our house with, basically tools are opportunities.
Right.
And so we have a piano sitting in our parlor. And my daughter, who was in 9th grade, saw her older brother took a piano class in school. And she was just like, wow, he was just playing simple, mm-hmm. Reading the notes. And she looked at him and she was like, that is so cool. And got excited about it just from seeing her brother learning to play the piano. And so she decided, I want to play the piano too, just on her own. And so she started just picking out songs on the piano, and then she looked it up on YouTube mm-hmm. and started watching the things where the keys light up and, I can play this song on the piano. And she picked it up really fast. And a year later, I took piano lessons for years and years and years as a kid. She's playing better than, she can do things that I never was able to do, where she can listen to a song and then like add all the notes in and stuff like that. And then she's like, but I want to learn to read music as well. And so then she started working on Simply Piano. Uh-huh. but doing all this where I'm like, I had no idea.
Okay, and
I had no idea she had this talent. She is in 9th grade.
But you bring up a really good point, Hannah. Simply Piano is a tool.
Yes.
There are so many apps that are time wasters.
Yeah.
That one
It's
is
a tool.
not. And that's a great one.
Yeah.
If you're going to spend your money on apps, there you go.
Well, my mom was going to get the kids birthday presents and Christmas presents. And my older daughter called her up and said, hey, so Grandma, last year you bought a Simply Piano and you missed my birthday. Could you get me Simply Guitar, please? And so instead of getting, makeup or jewelry or
disclaimer,
something
we are
like
in
that.
no way associated. Total disclaimer, we are in no way associated with Simply Piano or Simply Guitar.
Yeah.
We recognize good tools when we see them.
Yeah, and so then my daughter just she got it and she was so excited. She spent like 2 hours playing the guitar.
Until her fingers were all blistered.
Her fingers were not well after that, but really enjoyed it. But back to the piano with the other daughter who picked up the piano. If the piano wasn't there, I never would have known that she could play the piano or had an interest in it,
right,
or something like that. So filling your home up with tools,
opportunities,
like Falcon. I don't know, how did he start on Maya?
It was really easy. We watched him build all those things
in the backyard.
He would take the scrap wood pile and Hannah, the things he would create.
I have never seen a kid make so many different versions of a fort.
Buildings, forts, and he had 2-decker, 3-decker forts, but then he had
they were really dangerous.
Yeah, but then he had these cool design forts. It was just it really was amazing.
Every time it was completely different though. I wish I had taken more pictures.
We do have a few pictures.
We have a few, but he would do it every day. He would take it down and build a completely different fort.
And he got so excited about it. And so we're like, what? And I'm like, okay.
He likes to design things.
He loves design. I wonder if he could, I don't know, maybe he'd enjoy working on the computer doing 3D stuff. And I wouldn't mind having somebody who knew 3D, in my back pocket. And so I'm like, here, kind of a selfish reason, I guess. But I'm like, and I had the old work computer. I'm like, here you go. And I set up the Maya program on there. And in his spare time, because he gets 2 hours a day, as soon as his schoolwork is over, that's all he wants to do is jump on the 3D modeling program. And, what can I do today?
Yeah, so he watches YouTube tutorials
on
and
how
then
to do Maya.
Creates all sorts of animations and designs.
And then for school, the school bought a 3D printer.
Yeah.
And so
then he learned how to use the 3D printer now he's printing out his ideas.
Yeah.
And he made a whole set of toys for his younger brothers.
Who love it.
And they love it. They're like their favorite
little
toys.
Tanks and airplanes and soldiers. Yeah. But then he just recently did a bigger one, a bigger tank. He 3D printed the wheels and a turret and the tank body, and then screwed the wheels onto the tank so that it rolls, and then the turret can swivel. And it's like, wow, this is... And how old is he?
12. He just turned 12. Yeah.
Just turned 12.
So but how much, it's just cool. I mean, I don't know if any of the other kids, he can do a lot more than most adults can do in that. But that's just something, he loves designing things. He loves building things. But how much better would it be for Christmas to get your kid a 3D printer, or to get your kid a screwdriver, or to get, so there are these opportunities.
And that's just it.
Instead of a bunch of stuff. Here's a good, Superstar, her birthday was coming up, and she had expressed interest in the cello. And so before her birthday, I said, hey, Dad and I want to get you a present. Our budget is this much. And we were thinking, though, if you have the money, we'd be willing to put your birthday money towards a cello if that's something you want. And so this morning, a package arrived in the mail.
What? It's here?
Big box.
Oh, can't. Oh my gosh, I can't wait.
Where instead of getting her a bunch of stuff for her birthday, she's getting a cello that she partially bought, but because it was a little bit above our birthday money budget, but she's really genuinely excited about it. But it's one more tool that we have around the house. One more thing, giving a kid a sewing machine, and now you have YouTube. Everybody can look up how to use things and do things, but having machines and tools and paints and things, giving presents like that helps discover the superpowers.
Well, and that's the other thing is that Falcon was really excited about. He wanted to get into electronics and stuff, and so we went and he saved up his money and he bought a soldering iron. He started futzing around with how to solder
I forgot
stuff.
About that.
And turns out, he's not as excited about it as he thought he would be. But it's another tool, and who knows? Maybe one of his younger brothers or one of his other siblings will pick it up and go, "Oh, can I borrow that?" And all of a sudden they're making amazing things and putting circuit boards together and all that. But it's interesting because and we're going to talk about that in a second, where don't be afraid to be wrong. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. So that's key number 4 is to, instead of toys, entertainment, clothes, and jewelry and those sorts of things, buy and give your kids tools to give them more opportunities to do stuff. And that's just it. Fill your home with tools and learning opportunities. Make your house a house of learning, not entertainment. What's the famous quote? Poor people have big TVs, rich people have big libraries. I think the same idea where poor people have big TVs, or villains have mini computer screens, but the superheroes have lots of tools. Something, well, that's not great, but something along those lines where, you want to have opportunities, not necessarily entertainment. So, and that's just it. We're a rich society. Here in America, we are incredibly rich compared to most other countries in the world where our kids have access and opportunities. We should totally be spending our money on those things.
Well, I want to use movies as a treat or whatever. And so on Fridays, we would do Film Fridays, and I'd tell the kids, hey, if you want to watch a movie, you gotta shoot a movie scene. Here's the movie scene. Good luck. You have until this time today.
You want a movie? You got to make a movie.
You got to make a movie first. So sometimes they resented that, but we ended up with a collection of all these different scenes that our kids tried to reenact. And they did it all themselves, figured out how to do
and how much learning took place?
A ton of learning. And
discovery, self-discovery too. Ruby realized, I don't have patience for little children.
but she loved doing the sets and the makeup.
And the makeup, but she didn't have the patience for
she did not like working with little kids. And that
now she does. So that's number 4. Key number 4.
No, she actually does like working with little kids. She doesn't like working with older kids.
Oh, is it the old? Well, they're all little to me. Yeah. So okay. Key number 5, and this is a short one, but this is critical to understand, is that as a parent, you have the right to insight and inspiration for your children. As a parent of these little children, you have the right to inspiration and insight. And so all you have to do is just pay attention. And the thoughts will come to you, oh, I should try that. Or, oh, interesting, I never noticed that about my child. And go with it.
Yeah, you put the work in, and we turned off the entertainment. We're going to
give them different tools.
Start trying these things out.
But you can even get inspiration as to what tools to try.
Yeah.
But go with it.
You, as the parent,
and we've had great success. We've had great success with that. Incredible success with that. So, and that leads into key number 6, which is ask God. I mean, we're His children. This is a prayer that He wants to answer. He will bless you in your efforts to find out what your children's superpowers are.
And how they can contribute to the good of, what they were sent here for.
Absolutely. To help them discover and develop their superpowers. That is definitely a prayer He will be very quick to answer. I believe that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
So that's number 6. Key number 7, and we talked about this just a minute ago, but don't be afraid to be wrong. And I can think of a few examples where we tried stuff and it totally fell flat. Caleb putting him in basketball. That just was a total disaster.
Well, the other one was our daughter Trixie. From the time she was little, she was obsessed with clothes. And she would spend hours in front of the mirror trying on different clothes and putting together different outfits and seeing how they looked together. And she would get really mad if I ever dressed her. But, she came up with her own styles. Like one of the things she liked doing was she liked she really loved baby dresses when she was like 4 or 5. She loved infant dresses because they were so fancy. And so she would wear them as a shirt, like with her cut off jean shorts or, her.
She had great style.
Yeah, and it worked, but she just, that was her favorite.
People would ask, what? That's a cool shirt.
That's a cool shirt.
Well,
like, it's an infant dress.
It's a 2T dress, yeah.
But anyway, and then she would even like tell me in the morning, oh, Mom, last night I had a dream. I was wearing this red dress and it looked like this and it had like that. And I was like, wow, she really loves clothing and putting together these outfits. And so as she got older, it's like, hey,
maybe
she wants to go into clothing design. So I was like, okay, you need to make sure you take these art classes. I made sure she had sewing classes and learned how from a great teacher how to
pattern. We hired a teacher and she taught them how to do patterns and make their own patterns, proper sewing techniques, how to use the sewing machine.
And a year ago, she's a senior, and last year, her junior year, we were talking about, hey, what college do you want to go to? And I had looked at the list of the best colleges to go to for clothing design. And she's like, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, what?
You've always
wanted to do this. And she's like, no. And I don't. I don't want to do that. And finally I figured it out. And I came to her, I said, wait a minute, I get it. You don't want to make clothes. You want to wear clothes.
Well, that was just it. We were wrong.
And she got so excited. She was like, yes, that's it.
But that's just it. We were wrong. We had come to the wrong conclusion. We bought all these tools and given her all these opportunities. And it turns out we misinterpreted her actions.
Yeah, she didn't want to play music. She wanted to listen to it. It was just one of those things. She loves looking beautiful, but she doesn't actually want to construct clothing or design clothing. That's not what she wants to do. So it was the kind of an aha moment for us.
The other one was, I remember some of the kids had expressed interest in tennis, and we tried that out. Nobody liked it. So, but we tried it.
Remember Tia? She wrote that angry thing because she hated it so much.
Yes,
and she's
I
like,
do.
My mom makes me go, and why are we using a snowshoe to hit around the ball?
Tia had a way with words. So that's key number 7. Don't be afraid to be wrong. Key number 8, and this one's big. When helping your kids develop their superpower or discover their superpowers, key number 8, don't impose your hopes and your superpowers on your children. Just because you're amazing and you love math doesn't mean your kids will love it or even like it. And how many times do we see this where the parents are so disappointed in their children because they don't follow the same path that their parents and their grandparents have outlined? It's like, well, maybe because they have a different mission. Maybe because they have a different set of values.
No, and that's not the same as, they're getting in trouble and on drugs or things like that. That's going to be disappointing to any parent.
No, I'm talking about the parents. You come from 7 generations of dentists and you don't want to be a dentist? What's wrong with you? Well, maybe, Dad, I have a different mission. Maybe I have a different calling in life. And my calling is to be whatever it is. Where
fill in the blank.
Yeah. So don't, and that's just it. I need to be very clear. Our kids, they come pre-programmed. They have their own unique missions. It is not the same, Hannah, as your mission. It's not the same as my mission. And as disappointing as it may seem at first, it's actually incredibly satisfying and exciting to watch them realize, discover, and achieve their own unique mission. Even if it's completely different than mine, it's intensely satisfying for them and for me to develop and discover their own unique missions.
Discovering their mission and then going, okay, it's my job as a parent or the coach here
to help them
develop it, and then talking with them and coming up with a strategy and saying, hey, how can I support you with this? What can we do? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And supporting them in that, that ends up being very satisfying.
And also I guess kind of a corollary to that is don't be surprised if their mission isn't something you thought. Where And we have certain tropes in our society where only certain people can do certain missions. And we think that's normal, but not necessarily and I think a great example of that is Susan Boyle.
Oh, right.
Where you watch her and she has some, and I think you said it, intellectual, physical, social challenges.
Well, I didn't know who she was. I'd heard Susan Boyle. I'd kind of seen her on the front of magazines and stuff like that. And I didn't know who she was. And one day I'm like, who is Susan Boyle? And so I looked up, and the first thing that came up was her first performance. Mm-hmm. I think it was like Britain's Got Talent or some show like that. And I watched it, and socially she was kind of awkward, and you could tell she had physical problems and social problems, and maybe it mentally wasn't
intellectually a little slow.
A little slow, but
she didn't look the part.
She didn't look the part.
And I remember that level of on the judges, where they're just that skepticism.
The judges were very incredulous, like, okay, all right, haha. Whoever did the casting for this, they wanted to make fun of this person, right. Or see. And they were just kind of, okay, all right, okay, well, what are you gonna do? And I think she was singing a song from Les Mis or something. I Dreamed a Dream. Mm-hmm. And so the music started, and from the first note that she sang, it just sent chills down your spine. And it's one every time I watch that, it just sends chills down my spine. And it was incredible because, and as the judges said afterwards, they're like, I feel ashamed. We misjudged you. This whole audience here, we all misjudged you. That was incredible. That was absolutely incredible.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, it's one of her signature songs is, in fact, Who I Was Born to Be. Mm-hmm. And I love that that's one of her signature songs, because that's exactly what we're talking about, where she doesn't fit the part. She doesn't look like the Hollywood starlet with a beautiful voice. No, but that's her mission, is to beautify the world with her amazing voice. And that's one of her superpowers. And I love that. Such a great story.
Yeah, I wish I could talk to Susan's mother and go, okay, so how did you discover this? Because some people would be like, oh, if they had I remember I had a friend whose daughter had some learning disabilities or whatever, and it was really sad because she was like, yeah, I wish she hadn't been born.
She had written her off.
Written her off. Both she and her husband had written their daughter off because, I think she was like 10 years old, and she would still wet her pants, and she,
sad.
wasn't intellectually doing that well in school.
Well, that's just it. You think you want that, but you don't.
And her mom wished she had gotten an abortion, and she wished that she had never been born. And it was like,
could it be an opportunity for the parents to discover their own superpowers?
Yeah. You've got to find. It's your job to find what. Everybody has a superpower.
Okay, we say that at the intro, Hannah, but that is not glib. That's not just a frame. We truly believe everybody on this planet has been given a unique mission in life.
They have a way to contribute.
One superpower.
Yeah, they have a way to contribute and to make the world a better place. Everybody does. So no exceptions.
And so I guess that segues really nicely into the last key, which is key number 9, which is don't expect the superpower to necessarily be something mainstream or an art. And because there are so many different superpowers, and I think at this point we'll just rattle these off and we'll wrap it up here, because the idea is maybe by listing all the superpowers that we believe are truly superpowers, that maybe this will kind of give you some ideas on what to look for in not only in yourself but in your children. And here are just some. The superpower of putting others at ease, or social grace, or kindness.
Reminds me of Henry B. Eyring.
Or humor. or the superpower of organization. Good grief, don't we need that? Observation, deep thinking, critical thinking, being an athlete, science, math, intuition, clothing design, history, patience with kids, listening, physical strength, carpentry, critical thinking. I mentioned that already, but along those lines with wisdom or communication. And I laugh because that's actually one of my superpowers is the ability to make up analogies on the fly. Where it's just one of my superpowers. Resilience, inquisitiveness, entrepreneurship, enthusiasm, being encouraging, honesty, design, juggling, nursing, doctoring, tutoring, working well in an emergency. Like, could you see how some of these would be wonderful superpowers to have and develop? Solving puzzles, coming up with strategies, money management, money understanding, mechanics, coaching, writing, fiction or nonfiction, acting, stamina. And this is a quick one. I have a great uncle who came over one time, and he's the smallest member of his family. And he's not the big burly man that some of his brothers are. And he always kind of lamented that. He's like, yeah, I got chicken legs. I'm just not that strong. But he turned to me and he goes, but you know what I do have that they don't? I've got stamina. I can work and work and work and work. And here he was in his, I think, late 80s or early 90s. And he was there planting flowers.
We had moved into a new house, and it was kind of an overwhelming house because there were just so many fixes that needed to be made.
It was a former rental, yeah.
Yeah, and so we really hadn't gotten to the yard yet. That's usually like the last thing we get to, or
landscaping.
the front landscaping.
I think having running water and working toilets is higher priority than pretty flowers in
and
the
getting
front.
rid of infestations and all the stuff that was there. And so he came over and he planted the most beautiful garden in our front with flowers and bushes and here he was. How old was he?
I think it was late 80s.
Late 80s. His wife had already passed away. And I was like, he has more energy than I do.
Well, that's just it. He kept going and going and going. And he turned, like I said, he turned to me. He's like, yeah, you know what? I wasn't given, the amazing muscle strength that some of my siblings were. Mm-hmm. But I got something better. I got stamina. And I'm like, that is awesome. And he recognized that was his superpower. Mm-hmm. So...
and he was very kind.
And he was kind. That was another of his superpowers.
That was another one.
So, and just to kind of wrap this up, a few more superpowers: acting, or I already said that. Beauty, building relationships, public speaking, cooking, baking, positivity. Like the list just goes on and on. And this doesn't mean that you have to go pro with any of these, but if those are your superpowers, that means that's something that's part of what you need to develop in order to achieve your unique mission in life. Mm-hmm. That's what we say when we're talking about superpowers. It's those skills that you have that are unique to you and that are the strongest within you that you need to develop in order to achieve your unique mission.
Well, it reminds me of the Chronicles of Narnia when
we hit this
when
point.
When Father Christmas comes around and he gives each of the children a tool, and where he's like, oh, here's this medicine bottle and it will help you heal any wound, and here's a shield for you, and here's this for you, and here's an arrow for you, bow and arrow set for you. What if they had just gone, okay, I'm going to put this in the back of the closet? No, the point was they had these gifts, but it was part of their job, their mission, to use them and to get to work and to not just help their immediate family, but to look out for everyone that was there, and look outside themselves and use those gifts that they had been given to bless everybody.
Right.
And in fact, at one point, one of them got reprimanded because she had this bottle of healing ointment, and was using it on her brother, used it on her brother, and was there and all worried about her brother. And I think it was Aslan points out, okay, but look at all the other people who got, all the other warriors who got injured. You need to get to work. And you have a mission here. You have a job to do.
That was one of my all-time favorite analogies, where Father Christmas doesn't give them entertainment. He gives the Pevensey children, he gives them tools.
Gifts,
And
yeah.
Gifts, but
real gifts.
Yeah. Anyway, and that was the greatest gift he could give them, is these tools to help them achieve and accomplish their unique mission in life. And I love that. That is it. That's the whole concept of how to, and I guess I'll recap, is when it comes to helping your children discover their superpowers, here are the keys. Number one, it was turn off the TV.
Yeah, start there.
Number two, watch what your children do when they have the free time and they're not distracted. There isn't kryptonite all throughout the house. What happens when you collect all that kryptonite and lock it away, which is entertainment, and see what your children do? That's number two. Number three, because number two will only get you so far. Number three, try different things. Give your kids opportunities to experience different things. And number four, instead of buying your kids toys and entertainment, buy them tools. Number five, as a parent, we have the right to insight and inspiration. Number six, ask God. Boy, that's a good one. Because we're his children, he's more than willing to listen, and that's a prayer he wants to answer. Number seven, don't be afraid to be wrong. We've made plenty of mistakes. They're not mistakes, though. They're just part of the learning process. Number eight, don't, and this is a big one, don't impose your hopes and your superpowers on your children. Number nine, don't expect the superpower to be an art or that your children to even go pro with it. It's their unique mission, and the superpower is their unique superpower to a level that they need to develop. And then I guess there's one more, and not really a key, but don't let your kids weasel out of it. Don't let them, because they'll be pushed back. They're like, well, I don't want to develop that superpower. It's not fun. Maybe not, but that's your superpower, and that'll help you accomplish your unique mission in life. And that's ultimately what leads you to be happy. So as your coach, I know you don't want to be a wide receiver, but you have the best hands on the team. And so I'm going to put you at wide receiver. And because for the team and for your own good, that's where you need to be. Yeah, but I like running the ball. Yeah, well, you're not that fast. You're not that good at it. You are, whether you like it or not, you are a wide receiver. So, phew. And I love this topic so much because it's correct. It's true. This idea that everyone has a unique mission in life and everyone has at least one superpower to help them accomplish that unique mission. And it's true.
Yeah, and we're saying, hey, you're coaching your kids and all this, but actually Moneypants, it's about you as the adult as well. Mm-hmm. You have superpowers.
And that we're going to cover that in a future blog.
Yeah, and so we're focusing on this is what makes parenting fun.
Right.
This right here. It's not it's not this drudgery thing.
Right.
This is the part where it's so satisfying to be a parent and to see the potential of your kids, to recognize it, and then to support them as they become the person that they're supposed to be. They're unique, developing their unique superpowers. Yeah. But the great thing about Moneypants is we also, you as an adult, you have superpowers that you can develop, and you can bless the people around you, make the world a better place with, and accomplish your mission in life. So this thing applies to children and adults.
Exactly. And along those lines, I guess
I've met adults who think, oh, I don't have a superpower.
You're wrong.
I don't have a talent. I'm not talented.
If you truly believe you don't have a superpower, or if you truly believe you don't contribute anything to society, if you truly believe you don't have a unique mission in life, you are wrong.
Yeah, everybody does.
Everybody does. One last comment when I was thinking about it, I'm trying to define what a superpower is, and I said, it's not necessarily an art. Or it's not necessarily something you're going to go pro with. It's also not a comparison. You can't compare your superpowers to somebody else's. It's just whatever is among your particular skill set, which one of those attributes are the most important for you to develop, that you have a unique proclivity and inclination towards.
Yeah, and it also, I have a daughter who loved to sing. Mm-hmm. And she has a beautiful voice, but she's not, Mariah Carey or
I don't think anybody's Mariah Carey. She's
yeah, but it's her talent wasn't at that point, but it was beautiful listening to her sing. And at one point she decided to put together a music show for the local nursing home. Mm-hmm. and she prepared some solo pieces, and then she got friends together, some people playing the piano, the ukulele, a choir, and she put together a performance for the nursing home. And even though she wasn't Mariah Carey or, some amazing, I can't think of another singer,
Adele.
She wasn't Kelly Clarkson. Adele.
Yeah.
Even so, that meant so much to the people who were there for her performance.
Mm-hmm.
It was very touching, and it was.
And she used her talents
to bring beauty into the world
and to achieve her unique mission in life.
And it was very much appreciated. And I love listening. I love when there's music in my home and the beauty and the peacefulness that brings into our home.
Yeah,
and so
it's kind of awesome.
Yeah, don't think that, I have to be the superstar in order for my talents to mean anything, for my superpowers to mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not true either.
Right.
So anyway.
Excellent. And that's it. Those are all of our thoughts on how to help your kids discover their superpowers. If you like what you hear in this podcast, please tell your friends. They may want to listen too. And if you have a suggestion for a future podcast, go to our website under support and click contact us. Send us an email and we'll get right on it. And that's it for today. Enjoy some of Falcon Jasper's extremely exacting excellence. We'll see you next time.